I was teaching a group of B to C1 learners. Most of them are Spanish, and two of them are from China, Mandarin speakers. The ages are from around 30, half of the class, and the other class is around 50. Some of them were coming from B1 and others were coming back to study after a little while. The objectives of the lesson, the main objective was to learn the future perfect. I did this in a PPP model, so I presented the grammar, had them practice it in a controlled way and then in a semi-controlled, where they had cards and they had to walk around the room and create the questions and answer them. And then we did a freer practice where they would discuss their future plans. The idea of the lesson really was for them to understand that something would be finished by a certain date in the future, which they were able to grasp. And by the end of the lesson, they had learned some language as well, and we had covered some phonology. So the phonological element was learning the contraction of will and have. So it was will've, and stressing will or going to when somebody wants to give reassurance to the listener. The main thing I would change with this lesson is I would add in authentic texts. For B2 learners to move up to a strong B2 or a C1, they need more exposure to authentic texts, and this would have also given them more context of how we actually use the future perfect. At the end of the lesson, one of the students said, well, do you actually ever use this? And we do, although to them they never hear it because they're not aware of it, so they don't really notice it. So that was the first thing I would do, authentic texts. In terms of phonology, I would drill more, and I would prepare question answers for them to work on in groups, so that one could ask the question, or they could say, or make a statement, something like, are you sure you're going to come? And the other one could say, yes, I said I'm going to come, and then they could stress that with each other. So that practice would help. One of the things I got in the feedback from Duncan, which was excellent, was to try a test teach test. The PPP is probably easier on one of your first or second observations. A test teach test would have mixed it up a bit and given a more active class from the beginning, and then you could pick out the bits that they didn't understand. In lesson planning, I would, in my next classes after I finished this one, I spent a lot more time actually detailing how the activities were going to run and exactly what I was going to do and exactly what I was going to say. So there's a teacher's notes column in the lesson plan, in the procedure, and I put 1, I'm doing this, 2, I'm doing this, 3, I'm doing that. And actually walking through those bits highlights a lot of difficulties with maybe the structure of the lesson. Overall, the lesson went fairly well. I think the students gained their objectives. I got really good feedback from Duncan, and I noticed in my next lesson, my lesson planning was much stronger, the lesson was stronger, and the students got even more out of it.